So you're telling me this thing that's not an F, but this awesome heel turn that was big, you completely overlooked 3 months, a quarter, 25% of his fucking heel turn. You overshadow of his retirement tour, gone. But it's still not bad.
Here's why.
Take 25% away from a test exam. If you automatically lose 25%, what's the grade, Midnight? It's a fucking C. You can't even get higher than a C. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Wrestling Is Now Shitty podcast. As always, I am your host, the man with a degree in wrestlingology, Dr. Legend, joined as always with my esteemed colleague, Midnight.
And now I tell all you jabronis out there that Jey Uso's singles run has been put in the camel clutch.
How you doing, man? You catch any good wrestling this past couple weeks?
I have actually. I've watched a really good episode of Raw. Obviously Saturday night's main event. I was working a fight in San Jose, so I had to watch it at like 1 o'clock in the morning on replay. But overall, a decent week. We found we have an idea as to where WWE's heading over the next few months, and it's getting interesting.
Yeah, very, very interesting. So speaking of that, guys, we're reaching the end of the year. Thank you guys so much for tuning in the show. We've gotten more love and more discussions about wrestling than I ever thought we would. So thank you all that have subscribed to us and help us keep this thing going. And if you guys want to be a part of this wonderful show we put on every week, please send us an email with your questions to winspodcastlive@gmail.com, and we will answer them on the air and make you a part of this show, because we absolutely love professional wrestling and the community it has spawned, and we love nothing more than to discuss this wide, wonderful, wacky world with every one of you. So without further ado, guys, there's a lot to talk about. I know we missed the big show last week with the end of Cena's retirement tour, but we're going to be talking about that in the main event for this week. So we're going to discuss all the big stories we missed going forward. So let's not waste any time and turn on that Boomertron and talk about some of the big things. Now, we are commonly known as the #1 anti-Jey Uso wrestling podcast in the world. So it would bequeath us not to talk about Jey Uso's demotion back to the tag team division. And before y'all say anything else about how great the Usos are and they're one of the greatest tag teams of all time, or it is a common fact that any single star that goes to a tag team and goes back to being a tag team is a demotion. Tag team division is typically a lower to mid-card level program. It wasn't ever highly featured until the late 90s, early 2000s with the Hardys, Edge and Christian, and the Dudley Boys. It hasn't, and I don't think it's ever reached that prominence since. So Jey Uso and Jimmy Uso announced in the middle of a match they had no involvement in that they were back as a tag team, just to add icing on the cake of Jey Uso's current irrelevance to the product. They're like, okay, you're going back to your tag team, stick to what you're good. What do you think about this decision? Is it a good one, positive one overall, or are we sticking it to the IWC and the fans that call him he's nothing but an entrance?
How do you say to someone you love, I told you so? Honestly, you're absolutely right. You don't leave your tag team, become a single star, win the Rumble, win the belt, and within 6 or 7 months, get put right back to where you were before you won the Rumble and not call that a demotion. It's very clear that Jey Uso is popular. He does sell merchandise. He is charismatic, but he failed to produce in the ring and clearly failed to produce failed to get the confidence of the creative team. And that's a big deal because they literally, it was one guy in the writer's room that had Jay support and they went with it. And Triple H said, "I'm going to put a rocket on your back." And it was his time to shine, and he choked. And I feel bad for him. I really do, because I wanted to see him succeed, because honestly, they're working with older talent right now. Cody Rhodes is almost 40. CM Punk's 46. Roman ain't getting any younger, so it was good to see a new fresh face in there. But yeah, he just like a lot of the matches he's had recently, he botched it.
Big time. And do you think that writer in the room should get fired for this shit? Not,
Well,
I'm
It's Ed
just
Koskey, so he has been around. He was the guy that took over for Vince Russo, so he's been around so long that he's almost like a potted plant in that room. I don't think he should be fired, but I think that he shouldn't have, when 3 writers in the room, like Triple H said, "Who wins the Rumble?" 3 writers in the room, and it goes, "Punk, Punk, Punk." Like, it's Punk's Rumble, and then he goes, "I'd like to see Jay get in there." And it's like, this guy has got more stroke. He doesn't need the stroke that he's got, because he's not using it properly.
yeah, I really feel like this is a situation where they see, wow, this guy's popular, he's selling merch. We should just make him the champion because that's only going to make him more popular and it's only going to make him sell more merchandise. Everyone seems to forget, and I truly believe that the current IWC was born after 2005 because it's clear that they haven't watched anything beforehand. It feels like they don't see or care about wrestling's history before they started watching it. But for the longest time, I think for decades, the number 2 merchandise seller in the company was Rey Mysterio. And Ray was a workhorse. Ray killed it in the ring. Ray had phenomenal matches, and he was supported by the fans, and he was loved by the fans. But he did not make a main event caliber star. I mean, it's sorry, it's just
He didn't
unfortunate.
have that, like, you need that big fight atmosphere presence in order to be a main eventer. And that's the see. I'm so glad you brought up that post 2005 IWC stuff, because it's very true. Because what they're looking at is they're looking at how cool of a move can the guy do, not his presence in the ring. Like John Cena or not, his matches had a main event, big fight atmosphere, feel to them. Same thing with Hulk Hogan, same thing with Shawn Michaels, Kevin Nash, Bret Hart. These are all guys that when you put the belt on them, the belt felt really legitimate. And that's one thing about being that's what separates someone who can work a good match versus someone who can work a match that keeps you invested and gets you excited for it. Like when Triple H and John Cena wrestled at WrestleMania 22. I really wanted to see that match because I wanted to see if Cena was going to get beat. I wanted Cena to lose really bad. When Jey Uso wrestled Gunther, it just didn't have that big fight atmosphere. CM Punk versus Seth Rollins, CM Punk versus Gunther, Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns, they all have this big fight atmosphere feel to them. And Jay doesn't have that presence yet. Part of that is he just doesn't work in the ring. He's too like happy go lucky. And also, you kind of saw it at the end. They're trying to give him a little bit of an edge. You're seeing it now with Cody, with what he did with Drew McIntyre. He's starting to get this, like, okay, he's really emotionally invested in this match. And Jay just wasn't emotionally, he didn't get anybody emotionally invested in any match because he wasn't emotionally invested in the match, or he didn't make you feel like he was.
Nothing says confidence in your superstar when they win a match where they're guaranteed to go to the main event in WrestleMania and they wrestle in the very first match
Yeah.
of the night,
Yeah.
of night 1 even. And I think Triple H said it best in the CM Punk Best in the World documentary. We talked about Punk's first title run. That was a clear case of the title trying to make the guy versus the guy
The guy making the
making the
title.
title. And
Yes.
Jey Uso is not there. Will he ever be there? I don't think so. I honestly think he's literally peaked in his performance. And Yeah, it would be. I would be quite shocked if I ever change my opinion on Jey Uso. But I look forward to more of his happenstance conundrums and botches as we continue this show because it makes great content for us because it always hits whenever we talk about Jey Uso. Uh, but on the other side of the spectrum, a big reveal from Saturday night's main event as Joe Hendry is now joining the main roster as he takes on The Miz in the final match of the year. And I don't know if you saw this one. I got to play this clip. This is fantastic.
I believe in your passion.
That was fantastic. Okay, so they're bringing Joe Hendry on to take on the Miz, and I think that's probably one of the safest things they could do for Joe Hendry to really introduce him to the WWE universe, the main roster, because we've seen his clips, we've seen the memes, we've seen all the gifs pop up of Joe Hendry, and he's made quite the impact in 2025, being a part of the Royal Rumble and wrestling Randy Orton as his mystery opponent at WrestleMania 41. But now he's going to be coming on and joining the main roster, and this is his moment to shine. And I have to say, while I do love my boy Joe, I think he's very entertaining and he's a lot of fun. He's got a lot to prove because I really feel like there's a disconnect between the man that is presented versus the product of Joe Hendry, of what he brings and performs in the ring.
I think that the wrestling the Miz is a very safe bet for WWE because the Miz has a lot of built-in history and a lot of built-in heat, and the Miz can put over anybody, and it's not going to hurt the Miz. It's only going to help. This is only going to help Joe Hendry,
Jim
and
Hendry,
Jim Hendry. Sorry, Jim
you
Hendry
sound
was
like
the
you sound like our truth.
yeah. But no, this is only going to help him. He'll probably have a really good match. He's a really good athlete, and I just have to say that there has never been a first. It's been, I want to say, since probably Chris Jericho, where someone has come to the WWE as a first time WWE wrestler on the roster that's been this over before. Like, he is so over that it, I hope that people understand that he can have a good match and it might not feel like it's as epic as it should be considering how much he's been hyped up. So I hope that that doesn't hurt him because of how over he already is.
Yeah, there's always a big disconnect when the hype outpaces the performance. Because I remember when Chris Jericho came back the second time and people were so excited he was back, and he essentially kind of just floundered again, almost like his first WWE run where he kind of floundered until he started doing those big programs with like China and a few other things and the Benoit thing. So I really want Joe to succeed. I think he's a lot of fun. Do I think he needs to be WWE champion in the next 5 years? Absolutely not. I think Joe is a great, entertaining guy, and if he makes it to that level in 5 years, awesome. But just bring him in. He's a new, fresh face that people haven't seen before. He makes an impact with his entrance. He's got humorous affectations with the audience that they adore him. They really like seeing him in the ring, and they can only build from here. And the one thing I think they should avoid doing is oversaturating him. I remember before we had talked about him in NXT getting a little tired with the whole say his name and he's appearing at a random places like that fucking garbage can. Like, if they do that, I think that will turn Hendry into more of a Santino character, where he's the humorous lower to mid card guy versus someone you can take as a serious threat. Because people saw Joe as a serious main level threat in NXT because they were like Dark State was like running away from Joe. They didn't want anything to do with him because of his presence there. So you don't run away or fear a lower to mid card guy at all. That means when someone is running away from you, that means you are a top guy. That means you're a threat. That means you're someone who's big and who's super over. And I want Joe to succeed. I really do, because I like seeing him. Like, he's a lot of fun. And I didn't feel that way at the Royal Rumble. I admit it. When I first saw him, I was like, why is the TNA guy here? But then I was just listening to his music. I said, this shit's catchy as fuck. That's what
Yeah,
got me
no,
to like Joe. Again, and it's kind of funny that we bring this up after the Jey Uso thing, because people are going to, it could very well be that people see Joe Hendry as nothing but an entrance too. But so he has to prove himself here. He has to go above and beyond the Call of Duty and really work at it and push himself to show that he's more than just an entrance. And I think he's got the capability to do so. He does some good work in the ring. He's really athletic. He moves well, but he's not the biggest guy, so his presence is a little off. In NXT, he was doing okay, but it's kind of like, Taz in ECW. When he was in ECW, Taz was a decent presence, but he put him in WWE. When one of his first matches against Triple H, he looked like a fucking jobber because the size and height difference, it was terrible. So we'll see. I mean, I'm wishing Joe Hendry the best, and hopefully he does well. Let's see. If anything, he should stay at least 15 to 20 minutes in this year's Rumble. That's what he needs. That'll be a good push for that guy. But to match the hype.
Yeah, absolutely.
And speaking of matching the hype, the IWC called it immediately. Worst kept secret in WWE history, as Austin Theory reveals himself as the masked attacker on last week's Raw. And I have to admit, there is a period of WWE television that I am completely blacked out on. And it's the period like right during the COVID era and maybe 3 to 4 years before that. Like the last WWE pay-per-view I really saw was like WrestleMania 26. Like the last full WrestleMania I watched, and I kind of picked and choose in between then. So I have no idea who Austin Theory is, what he's capable of. I do know the IWC is hyping this guy. They talk big about him, and that's what got me going against LA Knight, because when I saw LA Knight perform versus the hype that he brought, just like we were talking about Joe Hendry, there was a very clear level of distinction, and it automatically made me dislike LA Knight. And the more I saw of LA, and the more I disliked him. The only thing I've seen of LA Knight is him appearing on the top 10 best stunner cells list, where he does the fishing, kicking his legs in the air thing, and also him saving a box superplex that Randy Orton was giving. So it looks like this guy's got talent. But Midnight, enlighten me on who Austin Theory is and why him being the revealed as the mass attacker is a big deal.
Think like Shelton Benjamin 2005, except a lot better promo skills, but also a better overall wrestler. The first time I saw Austin Theory on a pay per view was Elimination Chamber. I think it was 2023, and he had like the performance. I thought it was the best match of the night where he retained the U.S. title. He did a fantastic job. He's been a great wrestler, and it's kind of crazy how I think you talked about it in a podcast. Everyone thinks it's Austin Theory in that mask, and I'm like, it ain't Austin Theory. I'm like, whatever. It's going to be someone big, right? Like, no, it's Austin Theory, and this is actually great news because just like I said with like Jey Uso, there is a need for a new face in the main event scene, and this is the perfect way to do it. And for Austin Theory to get this shot, once again, he's going to have to prove it. And where he needs to prove it is in the mic, because I think that his matches are going to be good. He's going to have good psychology. He's going to have good performances. Where he needs to work on is his mic work and getting the crowd to really care about him emotionally and where his confidence level is. So this is a great news. It's overall great for long term because see, now you start thinking, okay, Austin Theory's just now in the main event scene. Where does this put him in the Rumble? It gives us way more questions about who's going to win the Rumble and who's going to main event WrestleMania and who's going to main event SummerSlam next year. Like, I guarantee you Austin Theory is going to be in that mix with Cody and Punk and Roman and Kevin Owens and all these guys. He's going to be right in there, and that's great news because now we don't have to recycle old feuds, or we don't have other things jamming things up. Like he can work with Paul Heyman and Breaker, and it it's great. It's a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sold on it. Some people were curious as to why he's turning heel when he does better as a face, and the new look. It's like, well, shave his head and he'll be a completely new character. Apparently, he came out on SmackDown last week wearing long cargo pants as his ring attire, which is really a shade different from his typical in-ring gear. But again, sometimes a fresh look helps cultivate you and make you get you that connection with the fans. And I think it's easier to do that when you're a heel, because when you're a good heel, fans respect you. And when they start to respect you as a heel, they start to cheer you. And when they
Yeah.
do that, it's easier to turn you into a face and to be a face you support. Like, people forget Austin cut that promo in King of the Ring, June 1996, the Austin 316 promo. And he didn't start really getting pushed in cheers until months later. Even at WrestleMania 13, people were still cheering Brett over Austin. There were still a lot of Austin fans, but it wasn't overwhelming. It took him a while to dig in and get that respect as a heel because he was doing stuff no other heel was doing. So the only thing I question in this is why. What is the point? And I think I would have rather seen Austin cut a promo before wrestling a match versus just jumping straight in, because really, what does this reveal mean? There's no weight to it. It just like, oh, Austin Theory's back and he's the masked guy. Why? That's the biggest question, and you need to have that answer. Having him reveal on that episode of Raw was completely out of left field. It definitely
Yeah.
felt like a decision that was just made in the writer's room that morning. Hey, let's do it now. They could have saved it for, I thought they were saving it for a big moment like the first anniversary of Raw on Netflix, because that would have been a big thing. Imagine he had come out and done something to John Cena that got him DQ'd, and then he pulled it off and said, like, look, I'm your worst nightmare now, Cena. You're going nowhere without me. Like, putting him against Cena is great because they both were, really good matches, and it really elevates him to the top main event level. But there's no reason why. There's nothing supporting this decision as to what he's doing. It's just a reveal. I'm going to get heat for this, but I'd put this in the category right now almost of the greater power in WWE Attitude Era. It just came out of nowhere. And people were like, oh shit. And it was like a big pop for a second. And then it fizzled out and died as one of the worst things. And now, do I think that? No. But I put it in that category only because it makes no sense. We haven't had a storyline reason why. And it's up to Austin and Heyman to discuss it. And why isn't the Vision asking questions? Well, what, Paul, why did you do this? Why didn't you tell us this was happening? Because they look just as shocked as CM Punk and the Faces did at Survivor Series when he first showed up. Like, there's no connection.
Here's the thing, though. You asked, why did he do this? Where's the promo? Guess what you're going to do on Monday night? You're going to tune into Raw because you want to find out. And that's why they did it this way.
But they put him in a match beforehand. That's what I'm telling you. He wrestled a match instead of cutting a promo. They didn't give him a chance to. Now they're just putting him in the roster now. Oh, Austin Theory's back. He's the guy. Okay. Why didn't CM Punk come out there and bury his ass in the middle of that match and get pissed off at him for fucking his shit up?
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
But I mean,
storyline wise, it makes no sense.
Yeah, but coming Monday, here we go. We're probably going to get that promo. He's going to come out first with the Vision or whatever, and we'll probably get our answer. And we're going to tune in because we all want to know why. We want to know where this is going. And maybe they have a good idea, maybe they don't. But it's one of those. Okay, let's reveal it. Because see, here's the thing. the reveal is probably not going to get over as much as the angle overall. So why do you need to highlight the reveal? Reveal it, tell why, and then you tell your story.
Yeah,
Does that
but
make
they've
sense?
only gotten one of those elements in so far. So right now we are just floating and coasting, and this only hurts Austin moving forward because he just revealed himself. Like I said with Braun Breaker joining the Vision, he was already being pushed to a main event level and instantly joined the Vision and became one of its lackeys instead of being a main event star. You know, if it were not for Seth Rollins being injured, he would still be in that position. They wouldn't be talking about him potentially winning the Rumble and even wrestling CM Punk for the world title next month. It's crazy. So I don't like, I want, please give me a proper story build to these things. Otherwise, all these reveals do is get you a few impressions week for 1 week on social media. And it's just going to kill Austin overall. So do your due diligence, Triple H. Make this shit work. Give it a rhyme, give it a reason. Otherwise, people are not going to care. But speaking of caring, WWE's most hated superstar is now its top heel as Gunther dethroned John Cena in his last match ceremoniously with a move people got so upset over, and now he's out there talking shit, keeping kayfabe alive, much like my boy Dominic Mysterio. And I have to say, originally I was not a Gunther fan. I was first introduced to Gunther, I think, in Royal Rumble 2024 when he did the Iron Man thing, and he outlasted everyone. I think he has the record now, like 110 minutes an hour and 10 minutes in the Rumble. Yeah. But I looked at him and I looked at his physique. I was like, who the fuck is this guy? He is so unimpressive, unimposing looking. But I was only looking at him at presence and face value. I didn't know who he was. And for a while, it just seemed like he coasted. But I really think his comeback after losing to Jey Uso was kind of like this revolutionary thing for Gunther. I absolutely love his music. Now, apparently, this is his old theme, like not his new theme. I love that he comes out. But to me, Gunther represents everything current WWE fans hate. He is old school. He is like a villain out of 1970s wrestling. He doesn't even have a ripped physique. He is just a big dude who can kick your ass. He is not a chicken shit heel. He is not an overly cocky or egotistical heel. He is like, I am the best wrestler in the company and I will beat you. And there is no doubting that. And the IWC turned on him. The fans in attendance wouldn't let this guy talk. That's how much white hot heat he was doing. He even had his Hulk Hogan NWO old lady moment at Saturday night's main event when that kid ran up to him and cut a promo on him, so upset and angry over what he was doing. And I bet Gunther was just eating it up inside, like, this is exactly what I want, you little shit. Keep talking. You're just going to make me bigger. You're going to make people hate me more. And it is completely different and opposite reaction that Shawn Michaels got after the Montreal Screwjob, when he would come out to cut promos and be met with absolute crowd apathy. I remember rewatching those Raw episodes during DX's promos, like, why is the crowd so quiet? They're not saying anything. It's just because they just didn't care about Shawn. They were so shocked over what happened to Brett, and they were so upset over what was done to him by Vince McMahon that Shawn Michaels became the third wheel in his own main event program. But not Gunther. He came out on Raw. It was just visceral heat from the audience. They wouldn't let him talk. They were booing the hell out of him. And that's what a good heel does, is he gets a reaction.
Just like Jericho about maybe 12, 13 years ago, when he had, as Vince McMahon would call, white heat, so much so that everyone but Vince thought that he had gone overboard. Gunther has white heat. He has the most legitimate heat that we've seen in over a decade. This is exactly what WWE needed. They capitalized on John Cena's retirement angle. They picked the perfect person to do it because he's legitimate. He has history. He's a former champion. He's the ring general. He's not a pussy. And now he's the guy that made John Cena tap out of the business for good, and everybody hates him. And it's the kind of heat that makes you want to watch anybody else kick his ass. And that, just like Paul Heyman says, why are these two guys fighting? Why should I pay to see it? Gunther's going to win the belt within a few months, I think, and he's going to be the most over heel champion ever. And now any baby face that goes up against him is going to get automatically over. I mean, they are doing a fantastic job of kind of this Kevin Sullivan-esque kind of like hot air balloon thing where you just keep getting the heat in, keep getting the heat in until it's ready to take off with all of these heels. Breaker, Theory, Rollins when he comes back, um, Gunther. I mean, they are amassing a stable of heels, not all at once, not in one stable, just a roster of heels to use. And that's what you need to get baby faces over, because you already have Punk and Cody over, but you want to get some other guys over too. And that's when you could start feeding in some of the mid baby faces in there, right? Even if they don't win, they're still going to get over because the fans want to see them mess Gunther up. This is wrestling 101.
Honestly, if I were booking it today, Gunther wins the Rumble. He goes to the main event and he wrestles Cody. He taps Cody out at WrestleMania. And then the story is now, as Cody, do I still have what it takes? I was considering myself the best in the business and I couldn't take out Gunther. It's like the Rocky 3 story where he rides as a championship for so long. He beats so many people, but there was never the one guy to properly challenge him. And then when he faced them, he lost. Then he has to rediscover himself. Do I still have what it takes? Rebuild himself back up to challenge him again, because you need monster heels for your faces to overcome and to vanquish, to get them popular. And I know Cody's heat right now as a face is waning. We talked about this weeks before when Roman was cutting a promo and he mentioned Cody's name and people were booing him, and he said like, oh, interesting. So this kind of putting Cody against Gunther right now would do nothing but elevate him and keep him up in that face stats, because they want to see Cody win. They don't want to see him tap. And imagine now the stable of guys Gunther faces, and they're boys, they're heroes. Please, we don't want to see our guys tap out to Gunther. And they will watch to see Gunther fall. And you built him. It's like Yokozuna 93.
Yes. Everyone was over who wrestled Yokozuna.
And they wanted to see Yoko fall, but he was unstoppable. He could not be stopped, and no one could vanquish this guy. They have this opportunity with Gunther. It's absolutely, and it is theirs to fucking botch. And I'm nervous about it because WWE in its current state is a fucking coin toss. We have no idea where it's going to go, and I'm worried about it. But when built and developed properly, this could be the thing that catapults WWE into 2026 without John Cena.
If you are a smart head of creative right now for WWE, at the end of nights 1 and 2 of WrestleMania, Punk and Cody both lose to Breaker or Theory and Gunther. The heels need to go over this WrestleMania because you can't have the faces win every year. It's just too much. You have to kind of build up for that big moment, kind of like WrestleMania 40 with Cody Rhodes, right? Both heels have to go over this next WrestleMania, and we have to spend the next year trying to dethrone them.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Let's go Empire Strikes Back on this bitch. Let the bad guys win, and because it's going to make the faces triumph that much larger. And we're going to get more big guys coming back next year, like Kevin Owens and Joe Hendry's going to be built up. Who knows what the main event face roster is going to look like in a year. But when you have monster heels for them to chase, it only elevates them. Your faces are only good against the bad guys they face. And
Yes.
right now, we talked about Cody struggling a little bit because he didn't have that stable of guy. He wrestled Drew in like his last 4 title defenses. Nothing against Drew McIntyre. I love Drew McIntyre. But Drew's getting buried here because he's just eating loss after loss after loss. There's no heat in those matches because Cody has just been winning them. And apparently he's going to face him one more time now. So, like, it's kind of like a been there, done that situation.
Cody Gunther at WrestleMania would be a dream match because not only would the match be good, it's like Gunther's gonna go, "Hey, I made your boy tap out. I'm gonna make you tap out." And at the end of WrestleMania, I'm gonna turn your dream into a nightmare. I'm gonna turn your story upside down, and you're never getting this belt back.
Oh, dude, this is the promo Gunther should cut. He goes, at WrestleMania, I'm gonna turn your nightmare into my reality.
Into my dream.
Oh, boom. Can you imagine that? Oh my
Yeah.
God. That would
Yes.
be heat. One last thing I want to say on this. People were bitching that John Cena went down because of a fucking sleeper. Lest we forget,
It's a rear naked
John
choke.
Cena's finisher is nothing more than an elevated body slam. So
Yeah.
before you talk shit about people's finishers, John Cena won 17 fucking championships with that dumb move. And that was
Yeah.
one of the reasons I never liked Cena, because that move has negative impact. It just looks dumb. Okay. Speaking of John Cena, Bleacher Report graded his retirement tour an F on their official site.
I think that's a little harsh.
Let me guess what your rating's going to be, Midnight. C plus?
It was a banger, so I give it a C plus.
Okay.
Honestly, though, that his retirement tour on like a day-to-day basis may not have been perfect, but like overall, we got some really good moments. We got the heel turn, we got the win at WrestleMania, we got the match at SummerSlam with Cody,
Okay.
and then we got the match. But yeah, if you want to
let's go into it bit by bit. Now, I don't want to dive in too deep for each one of these segments, but let's talk about their level of importance and the impact overall on the tour. So, on Netflix's premiere, Cena comes out, announces his retirement tour, and that he's going to be in the Royal Rumble match. He enters the Royal Rumble match and is the last person eliminated by our boy Jey Uso in a move that most wrestling fans called bullshit. Overall, I mean, it's okay. It's a Rumble performance. There's nothing spectacular about that, but Cena losing that to Jey Uso was memorable. That's all I can say. However, the next month, he goes into Elimination Chamber, and this is where people started getting heads turned. The most talked about moment in 2025 when John Cena wins the Elimination Chamber by defeating CM Punk at the end after interference from Seth Rollins in a very heel-like move from John Cena, which foreshadowed his heel turn later that night in a pretty awkward moment. I want to talk to the IWC directly here when they call this shit the greatest heel turn of all time. People wouldn't shut the fuck up about John Cena's heel turn as if it was the greatest thing since sliced bread. And just like I said earlier in the show, from fans who haven't watched the product before 2005 as if it doesn't exist, John Cena even fucking admitted that this was a unplanned bullshit viral moment they wanted to do to make Elimination Chamber big, which in hindsight is bullshit because there was no foreshadowing to it. They just did it for a moment that people were already watching. There was not like people had bought subscriptions to Peacock to see this moment happen.
But they did get a lot of traction on social media, which, by the way, shareholders look at.
They look at what impressions are driving, but at the end of the day, they see if those impressions drive numbers. And if it wasn't for the Cena retirement tour and people talking about it, it probably would have done anybody else in that same role. And Cody Rhodes turned heel in that moment wouldn't have been as big as John Cena doing it because it came out of nowhere. There was no build to it, no story, no rhyme or reason. And even talking about it on the CVV podcast, they were like, oh, by the way, Rock and Travis Scott, yeah, we no longer have them. So that heel turn you just pulled, we have no plans for it.
Yeah.
So, speaking of which, John Cena goes against Cody Rhodes in the main event of WrestleMania 41, and they put on a match. It wasn't the greatest match of all time, but it was a match. And at the end of the day, people were very upset that Cody went down from a single title shot to the head when just the month or 2 months prior at Royal Rumble, he had a battle against Kevin Owens in a ladder match where they battered and beat each other up and he came out victorious. So I always found that a little odd that that was the ending that happened. And to me, whether Cena wins or loses, it didn't really matter to me, but it was the quality of the match that I think stuck out the most. But him winning for the 17th time and becoming the most winningest champion of all time was something, a storyline wise, they wanted to drive. I think it helped the tour overall because it put Cena in the focus of it, because he was going to overshadow anybody else on this tour, to be honest. While he's doing it, no matter who he faced, whoever this was his last WrestleMania ever, so of course they need to put a highlight in it. It almost became Taker-esque, where Undertaker's matches started to overshadow the main event. So remember WrestleMania 25, nobody remembers fucking Orton versus Triple H in the main event. It was all about Shawn Taker.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the same sense. I don't know, what'd you think about WrestleMania?
Um, uh, I think Cena's. I think that the match itself wasn't great, but I think that they were trying to tell a story that Cody could not be this vicious person and do something dastardly to win the title, that he wasn't going to stoop to to John's level. That was the story that they were trying to tell. And obviously they end up finishing that story at SummerSlam with a much better match, which obviously you might want to have your better match at WrestleMania, but I think it was more of a long-term decision. Like, okay, let's or maybe they just weren't clicking in the ring at WrestleMania. Who knows? I didn't produce the match. But I feel like overall, um, you have to take the belt off of Cody to make it seem more, because he's better when he's chasing a little bit, and then once he gets it, you might have to kind of change his character a bit, which they're kind of doing right now. So that's kind of they were using that to build Cody's character long term. Is essentially what they're doing. And this entire retirement tour, this is why Bleacher Report's so full of shit. They don't know what they're talking about. I'm sorry. They're the TMZ
Okay.
of sports. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
well, let's keep going. We've got a long way to go. Now, I have to say, between the matches, my two most favorite segments of Cena's retirement tour came right after WrestleMania. It was his first promo where he cut it against the fans, saying how he was going to ruin wrestling and he was the last real champion. And then Orton comes out of nowhere and hits him with an out of nowhere RKO, and Cena yells shit after getting hit by it, because that's a natural reaction. I was like, okay, cool. And then finally the promo Cena cut in their build where some kid was giving him crap in the crowd and Cena was giving him shit back. And he goes, hey kid, your dad's a loser. Oh great, some 6-year-old just gave me the finger. Like, okay, that's a heel Cena I want to see. I started getting invested. But the match he had with Orton was no better or no worse than any of his other 42 pay-per-view matches he's had with Orton in the past. So, and he won with heelish tactics just to push it aside. And I feel like that's where the retirement tour / heel turn immediately got exposed, where it was just like, okay, there's no rhyme or reason why we're doing it. He's facing all of his old rivals and people who were big in his career. and they were hyping up those moments, but the end, the delivery just didn't pay off. And he faced R-Truth in the Saturday night's main event right after, like a why, Cena, why kind of deal. And it was a very forgettable match. Then they had the tag match with Cody Rhodes returning and teaming with Jey Uso against Cena and Logan Paul in a match at Money in the Bank, which I will say, I won't say it was forgettable because it did have a very kayfabe breaking moment where, god dang, Logan Paul held that stupid fucking what was it, the drone in his hand when he got superplexed by Cody and didn't let go of it. He just held it out extended the whole time, and I'm just like, you can see Logan get cocky and like, oh no, he's got me in a headlock, guess I better do nothing and just stand there and hold this drone and take it. And I bet everyone's like, oh my god, that looked cool. But again, kayfabe breaking. Just why don't you just come out and tell me, by the way, guys, if you don't have time to watch the match, here's the script and you can go through it line by line of what's going to happen. Because to me, that's what that looked like. It was just unveiling the curtain of what's going on and just showing you how blatantly fake this is. I know it takes a lot to suspend our disbelief to this. We know, guys, it's scripted and it's not like we think I want it to be real, but for a moment it's like in the movie theater when a guy throws a punch and he's like telegraphing it. He's like, okay, I'm gonna put my fist, I'm gonna go right across here, and he goes okay, and then he throws the punch and then he takes it. If that happened in a movie, we would say it's the dumbest shit ever, but we're supposed to forgive it because it's wrestling. No, I don't buy that bullshit. Then he faces R-Truth again on SmackDown in another wonderful. Do you remember that match?
I actually don't remember that.
Exactly. Neither does everyone else. They wrestled twice. And then goes back against CM Punk at Night of Champions. And I think people remember this one for the Punk coming out as the Doctor of Thugonomics parody, and then Cena's quote-unquote pipe bomb parody promo against CM Punk, which had a lot of build to it, and I got excited for this. I said, okay, cool. This feud has some heat to it. This has some meat to it. They had a good match, but again, just another finagled ending where just the match ended, and it was just prolonging this random-ass heel turn of John Cena that did nothing for either guy other than continue the story. What did you think?
Well, I mean, I thought the match was decent. It wasn't their best match, but then again, they've had fantastic matches before. But once again, I think that a lot of these matches were John Cena's friends saying, "I just want to work with John one more time before he goes." And whether or not that prolongs a storyline, sometimes that just doesn't matter. I mean, we do things all the time at work for our friends, right? We do things all the time to help our friends out, just to have a good time that may not be in our best interests financially, but we do them anyways because we love them. And I think that's kind of what they were doing. I think that they just threw a bunch of matches together just to keep their friends happy.
Okay, well, he goes into SummerSlam. Cody Rhodes wins the, what is it, the King of the Ring, or what, do you win King of the Ring? He won a tournament, whatever, and he got the right to face Cena at SummerSlam in a much better match than they had at WrestleMania. But for one, in fact, it was the start of our show where we reviewed SummerSlam, where I still believe this, doing 11 finishers in a match is not only excessive, it just buries your finisher as bullshit. Yeah. And I'm him doing 11 AAs, yeah, exactly. They're body slams. I would not surprised it took 11. He couldn't put Cody down because that's how weak the finisher is. But to folks who are Cena fans, that's the greatest finisher that ever lived. We had talked about that before. If you guys go back to our old show, what we thought about that match, but the crux of this was not just the Cena versus getting the belt off Cena, but it was Cena's random ass face turn, where Cody comes in and says, "I want to face the real John Cena," and like, "You got it, I'm back, man." Like, okay, so you're not gonna ruin wrestling now because Cody told you not to? Like, all that build, the greatest fucking heel turn of all time was killed in a conversation with your opponent? Tell me that ain't some bullshit. Tell me.
No,
Make it make sense.
well, I think overall the SummerSlam kind of finale with Cody Rhodes, uh, one, the match was excellent. It really was. That whole event was fantastic. But night two with Cena and Cody, they put on a phenomenal match that was universally acclaimed, and they did the right thing. They got the belt off of him. They put it back on Cody. It was a big night. Overall, it did its job. It may not appease everyone the method at which they did it, but it doesn't take away from the fact that it was a great match. And once again, this was one of the highlights of his retirement tour. And to have a highlight like that, how can you have a Dave Meltzer 5-star match in your retirement tour and you grade the thing an F? That just doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, that's if you take everything Dave Meltzer says as gospel. So if you ever question Dave Meltzer's scores or decisions, you can't use it to say, "Oh yeah, well, he graded this match great, so it's obviously a good match."
He wasn't the only one though. Everyone else graded it fantastic. Like it was
I didn't grade it fantastic. It's not universal. I thought it was okay. I thought it was better than the WrestleMania match but the WrestleMania match was bad.
What's okay for you though? Like out of
give it
a grade.
It's a C. Like
you thought that match was a C.
It was overbooked and overproduced. Okay, with the amount of finishers those guys did to each other, it was horseshit. It didn't make them look tough. It just made their finishers look weak. Tell me I'm wrong. You can't do 11 attitude adjustments, including one off the top rope, and not finish a guy.
Okay, and here's why your opinion is wrong, and everything else you like is bullshit. Because
everything else I like is bullshit. That's a strong opinion to have, because I thought this match was just a C. And the story of the match was big, I'll give you that, but the actual execution of the match, it was overbooked. How long that match? Look at the match time. Tell me that match wasn't.
It was 37 minutes.
37 fucking minutes. Of this shit.
The thing though, the match was a spectacle, and sometimes you need that in a main event wrestling match, right? It can't be a catch as catch can match. It can't be a match where, because see, here's the thing though, finishers it's been a long time that just taking one finisher is unless it's like a Raw match against a mid carder, like main event wrestlers usually have to take more than one finisher. That's been.
But 11.
You can't go back on that.
11.
But not all of them were pinfalls. Not all of them were near falls.
Okay, so Cena spent half of those 37 minutes riding that damn elevator up with Cody on his back before he dropped him on the time. Okay, I don't want to get into the crux of that moment or whatever, but it's a key moment of the retirement tour, which you're saying that Bleacher Report gets wrong. So we go in the next week against a tag match with Cena and Cody, now friends, against Drew and Logan Paul, which leads to Cena's match at Clash at Paris against Logan Paul, which I thought was fine. I think they both work really well. It was okay. Good. People were nervous that Cena was going to put over Logan Paul in this one, and I didn't care either way. Logan Paul wasn't doing much. Now, if it probably would have helped Logan Paul's credibility as a member of the Vision had he gone over, but it didn't hurt it either way. I think him wrestling Logan Paul right after his heel turn helped stabilize Cena and get his credibility back where it should have been. And then he wrestles Sami Zayn in his last SmackDown appearance ever. Then he finally goes into WrestlePalooza against Brock Lesnar in a very controversial match that Cena booked himself because he said, look, I'm on the way out. Brock is just returning. It doesn't make sense for us to have a 50-50 contest here. He should destroy me. And that he did. And again, unloading an unfathomable number of F5s. And that was just done to show how much fight was in Cena. But it was pretty much it was
a demolition. It was a demolition.
Yeah. Right. Okay. And then this is where I can start to see the Bleacher Report's grading scale. Why they gave it the way it is. He faces AJ Styles at Crown Jewel in Perth in a match the fans made because there were absolutely no plans for who Cena's opponent was going to be. And Sean probably said, look, I want to wrestle AJ. AJ wants to wrestle me. Can we do it, please? And Triple H's like, all right, I guess. How do you fuck up Cena's retirement tour? He gives you plenty of time to build this shit up, and then you don't even have a plan for him in one of his final PLEs, especially going against AJ Styles. Cena and AJ Styles made that match. They made it both in putting it together as well as making the match the spectacle that it was for them. And again, we talked about this before in a previous show, how we felt. I felt a little overbooked, but overall it was a fun match. And I think that's the retirement tour Cena needed. Stacking fun matches because we're saying goodbye to John Cena. So let's remember him in a positive way, in a good light. And you can see here as we go back through everything, there is just burial, like slowly written in between the lines between every one of these matches. Okay, we're going to shuttle through these really quick. Go against Dominic Mysterio on Raw for the Intercontinental title. He beats him. His last match on Raw, the 6-man tag against the Judgment Day, that we loved. Then he goes against Dominic at Survivor Series, where he loses in spectacular fashion, puts Dom over strong, and then finally last week taps to Gunther as Saturday night's main event. So that is the John Cena retirement tour, and I don't agree with Bleacher Report that it was an F. But overall, I think they weren't too far off the mark. I would say for someone of John Cena's caliber and level, what he contributed to the business and the way the fans responded to him, this was an absolute fumble. They could have done something epic, like with Ric Flair. Every match you were on your hands, sitting on your hands, watching. If he loses his next match, he is fucking gone. And Vince is shuffling his top guys against Flair to stop him. He says, I don't want this old man in my company anymore. He's going down. And you were just, oh God, is this next for Flair? You're like, is he going to lose before WrestleMania? Get inducted? Like, what's going to happen? And culminating in a match, a beautiful match against Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 24. And then Shawn going into his retirement to get The Undertaker, putting his career on the line. Look, can I beat him in my last match in the company against the guy who's unbeatable at WrestleMania? What a fantastic story. And here, John Cena's epic year. I give you guys a year to build me and to do this fucking properly. And they gave us nothing but filler, viral, week over week booking and no long-term storytelling developed whatsoever. It wasn't an F, but it was a damn D. And for dismal, because it could have been so much better. And again, I'm not even a Cena fan. I'm not rating this as like I hate John Cena. I think he sucked. But from an overall perspective, this is a moment they could have made me a John Cena fan, and they failed.
And this is why you and Bleacher Report get it wrong, because see, you're looking at the last 2 months. The last 2 months was an F. I'm not going to dispute that. The last 2 months have not been good. But a lot of you guys are forgetting the fact that he was in the Rumble, almost won it. I thought he was going to win it. I was like, oh my God, he's going to win this Rumble and he's going to go to WrestleMania. Then he wins the Chamber. Then he turns heel. Then he cuts his first heel promo with some of the biggest heat anyone's ever had since Shawn Michaels in Montreal in 2005. I mean, that promo was incredible. I mean, he just let it all out. He let 20 years of frustration just come out. And then he has that moment in WrestleMania where he helps build Cody's character back up. And then he has the match at SummerSlam, a fantastic match at SummerSlam. And then he gets another moment with Punk. So I just named off 5 great moments, and you're going to call that an F, and you're going to call that a D.
But you skipped. Look at this. You talked about his heel turn in March, and then skipped all the way to Night of Champions and SummerSlam. That is 3 months of his heel work. You completely skipped over for 2 other moments that happened 3 and 5 months later against CM Punk and John Cena. So you're telling me this thing that's not an F, but this awesome heel turn that was big, you completely overlooked 3 months, a quarter, 25% of his fucking heel turn. You overshadow of his retirement tour, gone. But it's still not bad.
Here's why.
Take
No, 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 no.
25% away from a test exam. If you automatically lose 25%, what's the grade, Midnight? It's a fucking C. You can't get higher than a C.
But guess what? He did well at WrestleMania. He knocked it out of the park at SummerSlam. He knocked it out of the park with his first promo. He got a hell of a lot of attention with his heel turn. Almost all of his tests he aced, and then like he messed up on some homework. Big whoop. C plus. C plus. Not
C
great.
plus.
C plus.
C plus. Not
Some
okay.
awesome
Not a
moments.
banger, but C plus.
No,
Okay.
no, I didn't say it was
No,
great. I just said it was for all the cool moments that we got from this retirement tour. The fact that they were rated an F, they're just trying to. I mean, once again, it's just like ESPN grading that one show an F or whatever. They're just trying to get clicks. They have to. There has to be a yin to the yang.
This was probably one of the biggest missed opportunities in wrestling history. I don't
think so. I don't think so. I don't think so. You want to know why? Because one, we did get some big moments, and two, we now have an over heel because of it.
Yeah, that's why I gave it a D, because otherwise I would have very close to agreeing with them storyline wise in the way Cena's going to be remembered. If you encapsulate everything that they did on this retirement tour, the whole story about it, they put together a fucking tournament last minute because they had no idea what to do with John at the end.
Good. I'm not gonna.
I know you said the last 2 months were bullshit, but again, that hurts it overall. I think it's a downgrade to what could have been one of the best, because they keep calling this guy the greatest of all time, and they give him the most mediocre send off.
He's not the greatest of all time.
No, that's what they call him. I know we don't. I know we know
they called
he's not.
Ric Flair the greatest of all time when he retired. They called Hulk Hogan the greatest of all time when he
but those are
Hall
true.
Of Fame. Well, Hulk Hogan's not the greatest of all time. Hulk Hogan.
He is the greatest superstar of all time.
Then how come he's dead?
He's so great. How come he's dead? Okay, yeah, we're nearing the end of the show. A couple of things I do want to call out here. So Vince Russo claims that this F grade is going to get Triple H fired from WWE. I love you, Vince, but you haven't been right in wrestling since 1998. So maybe you need to slow down things a bit. I know this statement was done just for clicks, and that's how Russo operates, man. It's almost like Triple H books like Russo now. Like we gotta get them talking about it. We gotta just do something impactful. Like Cena's heel turn was just done like, hey, we gotta make Chamber big. It's so unfortunate that it happened that way. But at the end of the day, I think people will remember John Cena the way they want to remember him. He's a beloved figure in many wrestling fans' hearts. And while I think it could have been a much better retirement tour for Cena, I think if John is happy with how things go on, then what more can you ask for? Right? I'm sure everybody has dreams of what their ultimate retirement tour is. And think about this. Some of the greatest of all time never got a proper send-off. They barely got more than a match, let alone a year dedicated to them. Like, how many people can name right now? Tell me what Macho Man's Randy Savage's last match was.
Well, the thing is that like if you give it a year, that's a tall order to fill a year of this one direction that you're going in, because that's not how wrestling works, because things change. And I still want to know like why they didn't just keep going heel. Why did they have to return him face? But that's neither here nor there. Vince was wrong. Triple H isn't going anywhere, because who do you replace him with? Who do you trust in that role?
Obviously, Road Dogg.
Oh God! Oh God, help me.
Well,
who said he was a better entertainer than Bret Hart? Like, get the fuck out of here,
Jesus,
bro.
Yeah,
get the fuck out of here.
This is what happens when you put your friends in positions of power in your job. Like, this nepotism at its finest. But that's all the time we have for this week's show, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in on us. Thank you all to our awesome, amazing new subscribers. We want to wish you guys the very merriest of Christmases and the happiest of New Year's. We're going to take next week off to spend it with our loved ones. But we'll be back in 2026 talking about all the fun things that are going to happen in WWE in a Cena-less World Wrestling Entertainment and see where we go from here.